granniopteryx, granniopteryx. She knows the truth, she's linking every link.
Hello, Ann Widdecombe has died. I didn't even know she was ill, and it seems that hardly anyone did, because this is her page. A good example of her attitude to herself was that she called her channel the Widdy Web, which is just marvellous. And here are some pictures of her, which I just found when I typed Ann Widdecombe into the search engine. And this is her page. It is with great shock and sadness that we announce the passing of the Right Honourable Ann Widdecombe at the age of 78. Cloud9 management represented Ann for over a decade, and we will miss her greatly. It seems that they didn't know she was ill either. I certainly hadn't heard about it. Ann Noreen Widdecombe was a British politician and television personality who was Reform UK's immigration and justice spokesperson from 2023 to 2026. Originally a member of the Conservative Party, she was MP for Maidstone and the Weald and the former Maidstone constituency from 1987 to 2010. It's typical of her that she didn't make a fuss out of whatever was ailing her. She was an old school politician. She spoke her mind, and she didn't parrot party lines either. It's no surprise that she ended up leaving the Conservatives and threw her weight behind Reform. If you go and look at her old videos, you'll see she's sitting at her desk with not these fake books, but genuine copies of the Hansard behind her, all in rows and rows, as long as she's been in Parliament. And she said she did that because when people said that she had said something in Parliament, she could go to that copy of Hansard and she could prove that they were most likely telling lies. People said all sorts of things that she said that she didn't say, especially people on the left. By the way, my reference to these fake books behind me, yeah, that's a shower screen. I've made no secret of that. I make these videos in the attic, and the floor isn't strong enough for cupboards full of books. So I had to do that to cover the white, just the plain white, not very well painted wall behind me. Okay, let's get back to Ann Widdecombe. She had a proper office and every copy of Hansard throughout her parliamentary history. And I think she probably knew everything that was in those copies of Hansard as well, because she took her work very seriously. She had an encyclopedic recall of parliamentary debates and who said what. And it seems that she never got sidetracked. She never, you know how it's quite common for people on the left to make up what people on the right have said. And they're doing that because they don't really know, but they sort of think that's more or less what they might have said. Well, Ann Widdecombe never fell into that sort of dishonesty. I think the left didn't like her. Well, they didn't like her for a few reasons. The first thing was she wasn't politically correct. But even when you looked at her, you knew she wasn't on the left. She didn't dress right. She dressed rather frumpily, actually, but comfortably for herself. She adopted neither the deliberate ugliness of the green far left, nor did she stick to the smart tailoring of the politically aspiring women who want to show how businesslike they are, when that actually is all that they had, their dress. She just dressed in obviously what was comfortable for herself. And she said politically incorrect things, which again the Labour didn't like. So that's one reason why the left didn't like her. I'm quite sure she didn't fit their image. And she also said politically incorrect things. And she didn't care how they sounded. If she thought they made sense, she came out with it. I often disagreed with her. Well, I did disagree with her on quite a few of her opinions, but I never disagreed with her right to voice them. And she always supported her opinions with rational argument. I may have made a rational argument in another direction, but the fact is you can do that. You can be rational about something that somebody else doesn't agree with, and they can be rational about not agreeing with you. For instance, she supported the idea of gay conversion for consenting adults, never for having it forced on people, but she said there wasn't enough research done into how it would affect consenting adults, what she called the unhappy homosexuals, that is, people who are homosexual and don't really like to be homosexual. I don't think anything like that would actually work. However, she supported her opinions with rational arguments, and again, as I said, she never supported the idea of forcing people into that. She opposed same-sex marriage. As a matter of fact, I have to confess, so do I. I have no objection to homosexual people having civil partnerships, but I do think that marrying in a church is probably not what the church is all about. But that's my opinion. If the church wants to do that, then that's their opinion. And I'm not going to get into any rows about that. She also objected to the age of consent for homosexual activity to be reduced. It was being reduced to 16 to bring it in line with the heterosexual age of consent. And again, I was with her on that. She was anti-abortion in any circumstances, and I disagreed on that with her. She was pro-Brexit, and I certainly agreed with that. And she was pro-Brexit when much of her party, the Conservatives at the time, were either for Remain or very sort of milquetoast about leaving the European Union. She was quite trenchant about that. Well, yeah, that's one of the reasons she left the party and went over to the, well, it wasn't UKIP then by that time, it was the Brexit Party, I think, or Reform, I don't remember which one it was. She had a lot of quarrels with modern feminism, which she described once as a big whinge. And in many cases, I have to agree with her about that as well. And she was very much against elective single parenthood. Again, and homosexual partnerships for children as parent groups for children. What she said was not that it should be illegal, but that it wasn't as good as a traditional family. And she never, as I said, she never sought to make any of these single parenthood or homosexual partnerships illegal. But she was very certain about her opinion that that wasn't going to be as good for the upbringing of a child as a traditional married relationship. She was a climate change skeptic. She was pro the death penalty, although she had a caveat in some cases. Yes, I'd always have a big disagreement with her about that. But she always backed up everything, all her opinions, with rational argument and facts and figures. You can pick up facts and figures to prove almost anything, though, so that's the little problem with that. One of her most important effects on British political life was when she voiced an opinion about Michael Howard, who was at the time the leader of the Conservative Party. She said, "There's something of the night about him." You know, I'm not sure that she intended that throwaway comment to have the profoundly damaging effect that it did have on Michael Howard's career, but it did. I mean, it knocked him out of the running completely. Now, I don't know. Again, the press thought that was a marvellous expression, and they picked it up and ran with it. And when it was taken up in that way, of course, Howard never recovered. I've never been entirely sure whether they did pick that up and run with it to such devastating effect, because Michael Howard is Jewish. You know, there's all this little suspicion floating around that organs like The Guardian and The Independent, they do go in that direction sometimes. Of course, I wouldn't dream of accusing The Guardian of institutional anti-Semitism. Oh no, perish the thought. I'll leave that job to Melanie Phillips. But to return to Ann Widdecombe, as I said, I disagreed with quite a few of her opinions. A lot of people did. But she had the courage to speak her mind. She never, like other politicians, they pick their way across the river of public opinion on these little stepping stones with great delicacy. But she just waded in. I admired her enormously, and I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I never got the chance to meet her. I never moved in those circles. But I think that the world of politics in this country is much the poorer, and we all are much the poorer for her leaving us. Okay, till next time. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.